What's up everyone? I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC 321. You could hear the fireworks going on. It's Diwali weekend, and what better way to celebrate the Diwali weekend with Tom Aspinall facing Ciryl Gane. Also, it has two good fights, I would say. Umar Nurmagomedov coming back, Volkov versus Jailton Almeida, already a number one contender fight for the heavyweight title. And let's get into it. Let's see how many predictions I get right. So let's start with the first fight of the main card, which is Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov. So in this fight, I would say Azamat Murzakanov is on a really good run. He's, I think, undefeated in the UFC right now. And while Alexander Rakic is on a slip, right? He's lost two back-to-back fights against, of course, elite fighters. One being Jiří Procházka, one being Magomedov. But still, Rakic has a height advantage. Definitely has a height advantage in front of Azamat. But Azamat's speed, his power, I think is going to give Rakic a lot of trouble. In the Magomedov fight, we saw that Rakic pretty much has one set style when he goes out to fight, right? And we've seen his other fights, even with Jiří Procházka, he found success in the first round. But then, Jiří finally got him knocked out in the second round. Even with Magomedov, he started off well, but once Magomed found his rhythm, once he found his left hand, it was trouble for Alexander Rakic. While the fight was competitive, Ankalaev was the clear winner. And I think even with Azamat, that is going to be the case, because Azamat's speed, his power, he's also a southpaw. That is going to pose a lot of problems for Alexander Rakic. And I think, Azamat might get a finish, because we've seen Rakic being finished earlier by Jiří as well. So I think Azamat is going to push the pace. He's going to find his rhythm. He might even take him down, wrestle with him. I think that's going to be a factor in this fight, and I think Alexander Rakic is going to lose. So my prediction is Azamat Murzakanov defeats Alexander Rakic by, I would say, a second round or a late first round finish. Next fight, Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. This is obviously a number one contender fight. Whoever wins in the main event of Aspinall versus Gane, either of these two are going to be facing the winner of that fight. That's legit, right? And you gotta feel for Alexander Volkov, because I think he won against Ciryl Gane. It wasn't like a big robbery. It was a close fight, but still, you would say that Alexander Volkov did enough in that fight to get the decision. But Ciryl Gane obviously won, and unfortunately, he's getting the title shot ahead of Volkov. But this is a really interesting fight, because Jailton Almeida is, he was on the climb when he suddenly lost to Curtis Blades, and then he came back with a knockout victory. So everybody has been praising his grappling skills, right? But nobody saw that he also has power and he can also knock out people. I definitely did not see it. So that makes it interesting, because Volkov, though, is a good wrestler in his sense, I don't think he's as good as Jailton Almeida is. And Jailton Almeida has many dimensions to his game, has many more dimensions than Alexander Volkov does. And he might, push the pace, take him down at will, and, cause trouble to Alexander Volkov. So I would say, because of the tools at his disposal, because of his all-round game, I would say Jailton Almeida definitely has more chances, more ways of winning than Alexander Volkov. And my prediction is Jailton Almeida wins the fight versus Volkov, I think via decision. Next fight, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista. Now, I've been excited to see Umar come back, right? After the war that he went through earlier in Jan with Merab, the first pay-per-view event of the year. It was very, very, very good, right? The first 2 rounds, definitely Umar won. Then Merab did his own thing, pushed the pace, suffocated Umar, and got the decision by winning the later 3 rounds. Now this is a 3-round fight against Mario Bautista, and I would say Umar does pose again a lot more threat to Bautista than Bautista poses to Umar, because Umar has a really, really good stand-up game. Umar really has a good wrestling game as well. We saw against Merab as well, where Merab took him down but couldn't keep him down. He found a way to get up, and it was in that fight that he had injured his left hand, left, right, some hand, I'm sure. So even through injury, he was showing good wrestling defense. And even, Mario Bautista has been known to have immense wrestling prowess. I don't think he's going to pose much danger to Umar in the wrestling. And in the stand-up, I think Umar definitely is, way ahead of Mario Bautista. So I would say, this is not a surprise. This is not an upset that I'm going to be picking. I picked Umar Nurmagomedov. I pick Umar though by a decision. He gets the decision over Mario Bautista. Now the next fight, the co-main event of this pay-per-view, Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. This is of course for the vacant women's strawweight title, which Weili Zhang vacated. She is going up. She is going to be facing Valentina Shevchenko in at UFC 322, and that's a fight that I'm looking forward to. This fight, of course, you have to keep the division moving, and it's a title fight, so you have to keep it as a co-main event. I would have liked to see Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida as a co-main event. Sadly, that's a more popular fight than these two fighting in the co-main event, but it's for a title shot, right? And you have to respect the title contenders that way. And in this, it's kind of close because Jandiroba is also wrestling heavy, grappling focused, while Mackenzie Dern herself has a very, very good wrestling base. And it's difficult picking one because Mackenzie Dern definitely has a submission threat, while Jandiroba is more consistent in her grappling game. She has more control over her grappling game, is what I feel. But Jandiroba is kind of on a great momentum. I think Mackenzie Dern might find it difficult to get a submission victory, even in stand-up. It might be difficult for Mackenzie Dern to get the better of Virna Jandiroba, and I think Virna Jandiroba actually gets a submission victory over Mackenzie Dern than the other way around. I might be wrong, but that is my prediction. I predict Virna Jandiroba getting a submission victory over Mackenzie Dern. In what round? I don't know. But she definitely does get a submission victory. And here we are, the main event. Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. Finally, I would say Tom Aspinall is fighting this year. Tom Aspinall has been inactive since last July, for no fault of his own, but he has been inactive. He has been the interim champion for so many months. Finally, John Jones retiring has made him the undisputed champion, and this is his first title defense. And I think it's not going to be close. I think Tom Aspinall is going to get an easy victory over Ciryl Gane. I don't think Tom is going to, with his signature one, to knock Ciryl Gane out in the first round, though. I think he might have to rely on his grappling. Ciryl is pretty slippery, pretty, sleek in his striking. He doesn't have much power. We saw that in the Tai Tuivasa fight, that he got Tai Tuivasa, I think, many times before actually knocking him out. So he doesn't have that crazy power which maybe a Sergey Pavlovich has, maybe even Jailton Almeida has. So Ciryl is not the most powerful striker, but he is definitely sleek on his feet. It's not easy catching Ciryl clean as well. In the Francis Ngannou fight, we saw how Ciryl was able to evade him and make it difficult for Francis Ngannou in the stand-up. Francis had to rely on his wrestling to get the decision victory over Ciryl Gane. So I don't see Tom doing the same thing that he does with every other fighter in the division to Ciryl Gane, that is, catch him clean in the first 45 seconds or 90 seconds of the fight and then, get a knockout victory. If he does, it won't be a surprise. But I don't see Tom doing that to Ciryl Gane. I would say, maybe they are standing up and maybe then Tom feigns something and then goes for a takedown on Ciryl Gane. And even though Ciryl showed that his wrestling has improved when he's faced Sergey Spivak is not really fast, not really, a grinding wrestler like Tom Aspinall is or Jailton Almeida is. And that's why I think Volkov versus Ciryl played into Cyryl's hands, because Volkov is not that great of a wrestler, even though he did show his wrestling skills in that fight. It wasn't, it was in Cyryl's court, the fight. Over here, Tom possesses the same dangers that John Jones possessed. Of course, maybe Tom is not as great a wrestler as John Jones, but he definitely is faster than Jones. He definitely is stronger than Jones. And he definitely will take Ciryl Gane down. I don't see Ciryl defending his wrestling. I don't see, even if he stuffs his takedowns, I don't see, him evading Tom Aspinall for that long and Tom will find his signature method. So either by knockout or by submission, Tom gets it done. I think in the early rounds, in probably the second round, if not the first round, Tom definitely finishes him via, I would say, a submission victory for Tom Aspinall. And he remains the undisputed heavyweight champion.